Welcome, wildflowers. Today, we're going to talk about death. We're going to talk about light. We're going to talk about you and what it takes to survive. We're going to talk about some yoga. I'm going to sing a song. We're going to share some prayers. And I'm going to give you some key insights from Archangel Michael. I have to tell you, I'm almost never apprehensive about this experience. I look forward to it. I love being with you. And the grace of sharing the truth in this way is really profound. The art of live casting is unique. And for those of you, I presume many of you who haven't tried it, I encourage you. I encourage you to speak to many people, and yet to be here present without you in person does enable me to tune in more to the channeling, to staying in touch with my divine presence. And I think this is blessed. Having made a lot of public appearances in front of people, there is a degree to which you can get sucked into the vibe of the room and drawn away from your truth. And the wrestling match of that is, it's its own art. It's beautiful. This nothing compares to this. And I almost never feel hesitant when I go live. Today is different. So I'm going to ask you to be extra in tune with yourself. Really encourage you, if you can, do some yoga. Even just sit on the ground, get on the floor and root yourself. Go for a walk. Make use of this time. Spend time breathing. Practice the breathing flower. Find it in the chakras in the key ring playlist. Learn how to be alive while we're engaging, because this time that we share is more than a class. It's a sacred transitional space. We're here to help each other change into who we need to be bastions, lights, flames of the new earth. Water is life. Last night, I had a rough night. I was woke in the middle of the night, and Archangel Michael was with me, and he was really clear that he wants me to talk about death today. And I didn't like it. I have recorded a couple of videos about this, and to be honest with you, I kind of wanted to let them be where they are, refer people to them in their own time, and move on. And I can't. You need to be present with what it takes to keep your light alive. There are so many opportunities to lose your light, to let it dim. And in the act of choosing to dim, you don't know that you're choosing to dim. What it feels like is you're practically tuning to the forces that you need to survive, to get along with your family, to continue to do your job, to even just have a conversation with people or someone who they're not going to get it. But in the act of doing this, you lose yourself. Now, to stay lit, you have to be willing to play at the edge of life and death. There really is no other option. And what are we going to do here? What are we going to do about this? Because we've got all sorts of different kinds of people. And it's important to recognize that we're sharing something here when we're together. We're feeling together. You're all focusing on me. Thank you for your respect. And yet, as you do, something greater is happening. Everyone who does this is part of a shared vibration. I'm a little bit like a conductor on a certain level. And as we get together vibrationally, some people have different challenges than others. Now, for those of you who have had more difficult lives, ever been afraid that you wouldn't have enough food or you might lose your home? For those of you who live in communities where this is normal, where people all around you are regularly afraid for such reasons, in some ways you actually have this easier. And it's important you know this. It's important that you know that you have some advantages that wealthier, well-to-do people who look like me often just don't have. And those advantages are more than profound. You have medicine. You have medicine for people who are winning in the old ways. Because the people who are winning in the old ways need to die to who you've been. Let's put this another way. We went, I know this is a dramatic shift, but it's not. We went to this really cool farm near us this weekend, and it's got all sorts of games, all sorts of activities out in the field. The people who ran it retired, and they're just kind of making a beautiful little farm festival land. And it has a pitching station where you can throw the ball and it clocks your speed. Now, when I was a kid, I loved baseball. In my 20s, I gave up on all sports. I got sick of praying for other people to lose. But as a kid, I really loved baseball. And I was out there and I was throwing the ball. And it got me in touch with this feeling. So I'm throwing, and I cannot even begin to count how many times I must have thrown a ball hard. Every single time I did it, I was throwing with my right hand. Every single time. And as I did, my left arm and shoulder had to be held in a certain way. Now, more recently in my life, as I've practiced yoga for years, I'm coming into subtle connection with how much my left side is off. I have a tendency to over rely on just kind of bracing with my left side while my right side does things. Now, we call this being right-handed. But the art of being right-handed means that the left is often holding stuff. So I'm holding stuff and hitting with the right hand, and my left arm gets tired in a very different way. And my left side has been complaining to me. Now stay with us. This weaves back in to the original theme. My left side is complaining. My right side still feels strong. I'm strong. I can do stuff. So one side of my body is saying there's something wrong, and the other side of my body is saying, cut it out. We want to keep going. I play guitar. I hold the chords with my left side. I strum with the right side. By the end of playing, typically my left side is very tired. My right side is like, woohoo, I got to play, yay. The complaints are coming from one place, and another part of my body is like, no, don't change it. This works great for me. The same is true for our societies. Now, particularly in the United States. And the United States is playing this role for the rest of the world in many ways. We're like, hey, this works. It works for people who are succeeding and wealthy and going to school and getting the best jobs. It seems to work. And the people who are complaining are sort of like the left side. They're like, we don't want to hold this. I still have this vivid memory of early in the pandemic. Everybody in my town isolated. So my family spent our time like cleansing the whole house. We cleaned everything. We got rid of all the junk that we'd never gotten rid of. And I filled up a garbage can, and it had all this broken up cement. It was so fucking heavy. I rolled it to the curb. And something in me, I couldn't sleep that night. And I woke up early and I got out there and I sat on the porch when the guy came to pick it up, and his eyes looked haunted. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, I will never do that to you again. He had to like leverage it up. It was so heavy, and he was strong. Here's someone who was doing, we learned a lesson we didn't learn here in New York, in well-to-do New York. We learned a lesson we didn't learn then in the pandemic. The essential workers are the ones who do the hardest work and don't get paid very well and don't get respect. Everybody else can put down their job. Society can keep going. But we needed him. And I dumped the heaviest load on that man. The people who complain about the way how things are working, if they even complain, are showing us that the whole system doesn't work. The whole system should work for everyone, just like my body should be working for both sides of my body. So when we find and accept that it's unacceptable circumstances for a wide range of people and even unacceptable circumstances for part of ourselves, we have to break the part of ourselves that likes it. And make no mistake, you have to cut deeper than you think you do to get to where you need to go. You have to cut to the edge of life and death. You won't necessarily discover that right away. You might start to do what you need to do and be like, that hurts, wow, I just did a lot. You could get distracted and dissuaded from this choice on so many levels. And I'm sitting here since the middle of the night with Archangel Michael praying, how can I really communicate this to you? Because some of you get it. Some of you have lived at this edge for much of your lives. And you have a strength, you have a form of strength that I need you to appreciate. The rest of us need. Now, I learned this from poor people of color, poor people who knew someone could rob them in the middle of the night. I learned this when I lived in a trailer with friends who took me in when I had nothing, traveling like a candle in the wind. To be in a life where you're constantly conscious of life and death puts you in a position where you can actually get here much more easily. You just get into this space and you're like, yeah, this is what we got to do. This doesn't work. You are not relying on a sense of faith that you're strong and you're winning. So it's not hard to say, let's change the foundations. But then there are all these other people for whom it's the most devastating, terrifying choice imaginable. Imagine you've made several $100,000 a year for the past 20 years or so. To be told that you have to fundamentally alter your life and maybe you're not going to get to keep your money. Whew. Now, if you don't have a lot of money and the job you've been working for the past 20 years hasn't been all that ideal, suggesting that a big life change is necessary is kind of like, yeah, I could have told you that last week and the year before. So appreciate, we've got a big circle here. I just looked through some of the newest subscribers. Welcome. Some of you are deeply steeped in how raw life can be. And others of you have been ensconced, protected from the rawness of the world for far too long. But we're all here together. And to combine and unite our strengths is to realize that the rainbow exists to support itself. The rainbow does not evaluate that red and green or orange and blue or even black and white have different qualitative standards. We need each other. We need all of these strengths. Now that might sound a little vague, so let's put it in simpler terms. When you break when a bone breaks, if you don't set it correctly, if you don't support it well, and then resist using it, it won't heal right. It'll heal bent. And then once it's healed bent, you have to break it again to get it right. We are essentially living in a society that needs to be broken. And the question is, are we willing to allow the world to do this to us? Or are we going to resist it and try to keep restoring the old way? Michael's with me very vividly, and I just keep checking in. I'm going to tell you a little more about how this works. I just keep checking in. I'm getting an inspiration to go, and it's like, yep, it's mine. One of the biggest problems in American politics is that liberal democratic politicians typically are champions of people of color, at least, who don't have as much in the form of resources. They will ostensibly, on the surface, support the idea that this society is unfair and then blame the Republicans for it. But there's a study that was done that suggested when Democrats control the governor and both branches of the legislature in a state, they don't really change the rules. One of the most fundamentally necessary rules to change is the way we allow housing to be built. So in well-to-do neighborhoods that are predominantly liberal, they always vote for liberal leaders. And please trust me, this is very spiritual. In such neighborhoods, they typically maintain very strict rules that suggest you can't build a bunch of lower income housing. Now, of course, that's exactly what we need to do in order to change society. If you're always going to group the most disadvantaged people together in poor standards, the tone that gets set makes it very difficult to generate hope. You have to mix people together. And if you don't do that, you are essentially ghettoizing, putting together all of the problems and then try not to look at it. They already know. When you admit to yourself that maybe you're doing this, you're going to start to be at the edge of change. To what extent are you hiding from the challenges that you need to change? From what extent are you hiding because the real change you need looks like prioritizing things that undermine the strengths that you think you have? I'll tell you this, 2 blocks from me, our town has rebuilt what's termed low-income housing. And then there was another area that we rebuilt a whole range of low-income housing. My kids and I walk through those neighborhoods every day, almost every day. Nothing but grace and respect and appreciation. When you give people good homes to live in and support them in it, they cherish it. Cherish it. But more importantly, much more importantly, is that people who grow up well-to-do look at those who have been termed disadvantaged and realize that these are exactly the people who have the strength to get us through the death. When you grow up in a community where someone gets shot, someone who's been shot. You hear brutal fights at night in the homes of the people around you. When this is normal to you, you have to develop a psyche that's capable of handling passing through these veils. If you never have to pass through these veils, when you do pass through the veil, you go crazy. And that's why I invite you back again to this sense. You have to be willing to be present with this dissolution of reality. And a lot of people know how. A lot of people know how. To be present with the dissolution of reality is to allow yourself to essentially be set up to break the strengths that you've over-relied upon, because these strengths trace back to depending on dynamics within your society and within your body that are unacceptable. It is likely that those of you who think you are winning are damaging yourself very deeply. You've just taken areas of your consciousness and said, I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to pay attention to the pain that I'm feeling. And I want you to be present with how we can work together to change these. I'm going to say hi, and then we're going to move a little deeper. Sayla, welcome. Welcome here. Thank you for being here. Jay, bless you. I be Shmi. I love it. I live your channel. Well, bless your heart. Thank you so much. Aw 3 Sam. Grand rising to you as well. Bless your heart. Thank you for being here. Bobby, thanks for being here. Cosmic Man, I hope you're having a good week. I know you were having a tough time recently. Let's take a moment. Pray for Cosmic Man. I hope you don't mind. You publicly commented it's been rough. 3 breaths. May love be with you. May you receive the support you need through this time of change. Because this is what we need. We need to appreciate that everybody's not going through the same challenges. And many of us have strengths for each other. That's what this rainbow means. We want to begin to make this a little bit more practical. That's what the rainbow means. When we're gathering as a rainbow, which is what we're doing, what we create is a system in which the essence of every hue means color of light refracted through a prism, the essence of every hue, yellow, red, green, blue, these are all correlating to human cultures, people. And the essence of each of these rays of light is medicine for what we lack. And what's even more miraculous is when you are suffering, I invite you to realize that your suffering can be interpreted through an overpresence and an overlack of light. Ultimately, when we are coherent, when we have some degree of balance between the rays of light within ourselves, and you are composed of pure light that's been broken up. And as we live, we're investing in some of these rays, some of these hues more than other. Now, we are born with a predominant strength that our family gives us naturally in abundance. And if we use this wisely, we can share with others who need that. And then we can appreciate and embrace the strengths that others have. And we're all left with balance. It's gorgeous. It's elegant. And yet, if we don't have an honest understanding of why we're suffering and what we're good at and what we lack and how to respect the people who have what we lack, think of it this way. You've all been exposed on some level to a relationship in which somebody wants to be intimate, but they want to control their intimacy. Now, this is the essence of prostitution, right? A man wants to be intimate, but he wants to control the intimacy. So he wants to use money because then he can control it. He can get sex when he wants. And he wants the intimacy to be sexual because that itself is kind of pointed, right? You can control it with your mind. Whereas if you're investing in intimacy over time, you have someone right there. They're staring into you. They know you. They can see your dark corners. They can see your dark places. So there's this intrinsic desire that's a potential on many levels to want intimacy, but to want to control intimacy. Now, step that back in a little more and you look at culture. Like I would argue that the American culture in particular has done this. There is a strength in Black people in particular in the United States that's just, it's very obvious. They keep people with a particular color skin seem to keep championing new ideas and ways of being again and again first. They bring certain strengths into the culture. Go back to the times at the era of jazz and then blues. And then Led Zeppelin comes along and perfects the licks and it makes it popular. And then Eminem comes along and perfects the cadence and makes it popular. Like to allow certain people to bring it to the surface first, that was work. And what this culture has done is it said, we want this. Oh, we want it, but we want to control it. We want it to come within a system where, we got it good, and then we could sort of like try to take it in, at our own pace. So you got all these white kids in the suburbs, white boys in the suburbs, listening to hip hop. They want their house. They want their comfort. They don't want to have to fight to earn their wealth, but they want the edge too. They want the vibrancy. They want the aliveness, but more importantly, they want that ability to move through veils. They want that deep resilience that allows them to live at the edge of life and death. Because on a very, very real level, these young men and women know they're missing something. That safety itself makes you sick. That if you protect yourself too much from the reality of this world and this life, you start to ossify inside. And more importantly, your spirit, it gets twisted. Because your consciousness needs to reclaim your full potential and power. And you can't do that if you're cutting off aspects of yourself. And you cut off aspects of yourself if you refuse to be led where your spirit needs to go. Well, your spirit is trying to take you to places that arguably your ego, your understanding of yourself from birth until now, your ego don't want to do it. Can't do it. Can't do it. You've been raised, all of us have been raised with an ego of some form. And if you were raised with an ego within a society or community that's too protected, that ego has to die in order for you to gain the experience of reintegrating a full rainbow. There's no other way to do it. If you too heavily identify with one hue of color, whether you're Buddhist or Christian or shamanic or atheist, whatever it is, if you too heavily identify with one way of being in relation to others, so you're not really Buddhist or really Christian, you are culturally identified with these traditions, but you're thinking in a way that says, we are the right way, they are the confused people over there. If you don't do the work to appreciate that we exist in this relationship with other ways of being, Whether or not you have known, whether or not you have sensed it, we exist within these relationships with other ways of being. And to embrace that as true means you have to allow yourself to be in the presence of another way of being without being threatened. Well, you can't do that if you're too heavily identified with the way you started. And then, yet again, you have to allow yourself to dissolve. You have to be able to hear the music of another way. You have to be able to hear the music of light, which means you feel it. A lot of people feel the presence of another way of being, and it's just absolutely fucking terrifying. They freak out. They pump up the volume of their own way. They put on earphones. They watch their phone all day, just like, just keep showing me me. Just keep showing me me. I only want to see me, because unconsciously you're being threatened. You don't even realize you're being threatened. You don't even recognize that's what's happening. It's happening before you allow it to reach your consciousness. You're just like filling it. Fill me with me. Fill me. And it's not even fun. You don't even like yourself this way, right? Do you? It's enough. All right. We're going to take a little break in a couple minutes. We're going to take a little yoga break. I want you to normalize having 1-minute breaks. So just give a couple minutes to an idea of what you could do. You can hold one pose, or you could do a repeated exercise. I'm going to show you some side squats, and you can do it at any level. So if you're subtle, you can adjust with us. I want you to appreciate something. We are here to support you in transforming into a rainbow. This is a much more powerful transformation than you can contemplate. The reason rainbow warriors is the term is because we are internalizing the energy that causes people to go to war. It's the fight to end all fights, and it happens inside. But we can support each other in doing it. Because when we allow the different hues of light to exist within us, some of them are designed to fight with each other in this modern world. Some of them, we inherit the presence of orange screaming that it's more important than blue. We inherit that. And when you open yourself to own these different hues, there's a fight inside you. And you have to own this fight despite the screaming desire to externalize it and attack someone else or hate someone else in order to vent away the internal stress and trauma. We're here to support each other in doing this together. I personally can help you on an ongoing basis. I do give people weekly sessions. And to commit to this is to say, I'm not going to take it easy on you. I'm pretty challenging on people, and some of you want this. So to receive such support is to say, I'm going to stare at you in particular, and I'm going to call you out. But I do it with a hell of a lot of compassion. And I offer you a roadmap, path ahead to tune in with yourself and to understand and appreciate what work you can do to build the strength to face yourself over time. I've worked with some people for years. I work with some people periodically. They return to me when they need it. So if you are interested, please consider, check out the website, wildflowerfire.com sessions. Yoga break. What I'm going to show you is some side squats. So I really encourage you to add this to your life. And it's a good thing to do all on its own sometimes. It's also a good thing to do at the end of a practice. What you need to do, real quick lesson before we begin. What you need to do is appreciate your edge. Now, what we're going for is that there's a balance between two concepts. Easy and natural, and your edge. Your edge is the limit to which you can effectively go in any pose and any spiritual endeavor, that it's still good for you. And you can feel it, you feel into it. It's tense, it can be challenging, but it's still, it's not the pain where you're ripping your muscles in an inappropriate way or going to pull the tendon off the bone. And then easy natural is where you're just going to spring to if I say first try. So first try, you go to the easy natural version, and then you move towards your edge. Looks like this. So I go to the first natural width. Now I'm going to turn one leg straight. We're going like this. Then you're going like this. You're just lifting the heel and straightening that leg. And then if you feel good about that, you start to sink a little. And then if you feel good about that, you start to distance a little more. Now, you're not counting and you're not thinking one rep is better than the other. You're measuring what's the best, easy, natural form I can do now. And then I'm leaning into my edge because I like it. I want to feel more alive and aware. Start to stretch over new muscles. You can lift the foot or keep it flat. Lean in a slightly different way. My toes are alive. Give yourself a lion and goddess. Now you can keep doing that. Look at that. What's about? Look at that. What I really wanted to say is a bunch of people bailed when I did the yoga and get out of here. Get out of here. If you can't even look at it and feel inspired. We need to be doing this all day long. It's honestly best if you do something like that every half hour, a minute, and you choose an exercise that's appealing. You don't have to copy me, but choose something every day. And if you are inspired, that is drawing and feeding into your own practice. You need a practice of some form, a space you can rest, a space you can return, a space that brings your mind and your body together to tune into your spirit. Breath is the bridge between spirit and body. Now I'm going to offer some prayers. If you have prayers to offer, please throw them out there. I'm going to offer prayers for Sudan right now. There are fires all across the center of the country. The civil war fueled by external motivations in a space that's lost to much of the world, abandoned by most people, even in our hearts. This is an ancient place. Breathing and praying for peace here. I pray for Bangladesh. There's been terrifying change. One of the densest populations on the planet, and one of the lowest. So they're already experiencing terrible difficulties with floodwaters. They always have. They're learning to build houses that float. Extraordinary numbers of people all living together, just going through a coup. Terrifying levels of change. Any hint of environmental challenge can hearken famine. It's hard to know how to pray for such a thing, for such a challenge. I pray for everyone affected by the hurricane through Florida up the Appalachians. There are towns that are just gone, all up the Appalachian Mountains. May love be with all of these people in their times of fear. May guide each of you to make the best choices you can in the face of terrifying change and doubt. May the peace of the divine be present with you into death if it needs to be. And may we be humble to the peace and love that we experience, the sense of normal that we have. Whereas once upon a time, we didn't hear about these challenges in the world. Now we hear so much about so many things that they just get lost amidst the chatter. May we be humble to the gift of the good lives that we experience and grateful for everything that we receive. Aware that one day we may also experience terrifying change, and our karma will be with us when we do. Thank you, Jonathan. Good for you, Bobby. They are great. Shayna, thank you for being here. Burma, definitely. The ethnic turmoil there has been terrible for quite a long time. The psychology of turning on another group of people is a fundamental part of the challenge that we're wrestling with here. Because for the past 3 weeks, we've been working with an idea that I want you to be really good at understanding. It is one of the most fundamental points of awareness that underlies massive 1,000-year-old historical turmoil. Here's the simple truth. We are ultimately complete light. This is how we start, right? Not just before we're born. Every morning when you wake up, you're pure light. But before you're fully conscious, you're portioning that light in patterns that you've been building and weaving for your whole life. So you're essentially, through different contracts, unspoken, misunderstood contracts, you're sending light in all sorts of different ways to different people and to different cultures. And the simple truth of this is, when we are suffering inside for whatever reason, when we bear karmic forces that are suffering, we have this terrifying capacity to externalize the energy that generates. So let's imagine you once had a dream to be something that you never followed or haven't followed yet. If you've never come to terms with choosing a different course, or if you took a different course that it just hasn't worked, and you're still resting in doubt somewhere deep inside you, what if, and you're carrying regret, what if? That is generating energy. It's growing energy like a weed every day. And you have to do something with that energy. And the terrifying truth is you can essentially fling that negative energy at someone else. So if you're going through this and you go, God, oh, fuck those people. Can you believe this? Or you call your partner, or you call a friend, and do you hear what those guys did? Now look at this. There's a gazillion things happening all over the earth right now, everywhere. Someone's getting raped. Someone's having a birthday. Someone just got shot. Someone just got in a car crash. Someone's singing a song in a group. Someone's baking a meal as a surprise for their friends. Someone's working too hard. Someone's crying because they don't know what to do right now. Of all the things that we have to do, if you're going to pinpoint something you don't like about someone else and put your mind there, you're not thinking about them. You're thinking about you. You're thinking about your own negative feelings. You chose that as a way to externalize your regret, as a way to externalize your sense of failure. And when you externalize it, you're flinging energy at them. It's often known as racism. In a less subtle way, if it's just a rivalry, it's just a form of hatred that allows you to project your own pain. And this is active. This is not just psychological. Some people are close to being able to evaluate this on a psychological level. But to appreciate you're doing something, you are flinging energy through the air. It's prana, it exists, and it gets there, and it affects them. It affects them. So the most common pattern is they fling it back. That's the most common pattern. But plenty of people throughout all of human history attempt to generate systems that allow them to fling their negative energy at people who can't fling it back. Now, they may brew, they may seethe, but they can't directly take stronger actions to rebalance the equation. And as a result, we get systems of injustice. Now, the quiet and somewhat terrifying truth is the world has been working for a long time to generate opportunities for us to fling our pain at her rather than at each other. This has been her intention. She has been saying, hurt me, don't hurt each other. And so people who get abused by their bosses or by a more dominant social class eat bad meat. And they have to eat bad meat because it's cheaper. So they're eating animals that were abused, living in the dark, never got to breathe properly. But of course, those animals are sick. So when they get eaten, it makes the other people sick. But when they're sick, they're weak. And when they're weak, they can't fight back. So the system stays in the same format that it's been in. But slowly and slowly over time, the earth is teaching us how to change it. And what we're doing right now is receiving the presence of enough people. The world is receiving the presence of enough people who get it. It doesn't take everybody by any means. Some are accustomed to cherry picking the 144,000 number from the Bible, 12,000 times 12. 144,000 from the Bible, 12 tribes of Israel. That's where they're coming from. It's not a bad number. There's power in it. It's a little bigger than this, thankfully. And the beauty is, this is not a prophecy in its essence. This is a reality now. You can let go of the historical interpretation. They didn't really understand it as well as we can because we're living it. What we're living is the existence of integrating ourselves. So we get to be this flame. You can't light up. You can't light up if you're rejecting any hue. If you reject any part of the rainbow, you can't be this kind of flame. This is where we've been working towards, people, and it's a good place to be. You cannot light up unless you're fully willing to embrace all of the energy that is you. So you have to be willing to look into all the deals you make to externalize your energy and change them. But here's the thing, it's not all your fault. A lot of this is inherited karma. You were raised in a culture that intrinsically is normal to you. Your parents brought you in. You heard their songs. You heard the tones of their voices and the cadence, the patter of their communication. You accepted the rhythms of their days. You accepted the primary focal points of their attention. This is just normal to you. But the patterns of every culture have these contracts built in as well. The patterns of our cultures have these externalizations. And so, on a simple level, pure just let's set aside mystical extremes and just be like, people are accustomed to exaggerating the flaws of the people they don't like and minimizing their own flaws. it's just more tempting to be like, can you believe they're doing that? Well, yeah, I mean, I do this, but you understand, I kind of had to do this, you understand. We give ourselves a pass. And if we don't do it personally, because plenty of people are hard on themselves, but you're probably invested in a culture that's doing that, minimizing the flaws of your own culture and exaggerating the flaws of another. Now, as we start to look at this, we're not supposed to just stew in guilt. The point is to break it and re-embrace something broader. You have to have positive. You have to feel the rainbow for this to work. And I'm sitting here telling you, when I feel the presence of the rainbow flowing through me, and it reunites in a pure light that allows me to burn as a flame of the earth, I'm calling many of you from beyond a veil you don't know how to reach. That might look normal enough for a little while. You maybe just get distracted. Some reason draws your attention somewhere else. You want to watch this or that. But if you stay present with a real flame of the earth for long enough, you're going to be forced to go to your edge. And your ego will resist. It's uncomfortable. You can't just go with your flow through all of this. Kareem, hello. There's a good vibe to you. Thank you for being here. Bless your soul. You can't just go with the flow through all of these. You have to be willing to learn to interpret the stimuli, the sensations that you're experiencing, and recognize you got to move through some challenges in order to stay with the flame. And if you're going to move through these challenges, you're going to be confronted again and again with the kind of love it takes to fully love yourself. The ultimate question is, what parts of yourself are you not loving? Really? What parts of yourself you're just like, oh yeah, no, I'll put up with that. I always have. No, you can't do that. That's part of the problem. Because ultimately, the guilt of realizing that you've been investing in a system that hurts other people a lot needs to go deeper. Now let go of the guilt. Guilt is purposeless once you have accepted responsibility. No purpose, only counterproductive. Once you consciously say, I'm willing to learn, guilt has no place. Now, what are you going to do? And I'm telling you, it traces to find the part of yourself that you have not been loving enough. Find the part of yourself that has been suffering for so long, you just know it is normal. And then say, this is no longer okay. I want to change this, and it's more important to me than this, this, and this. Whatever stands in the way. I want to change these so I can thrive, so I can be a full rainbow of light in this life. Oh, thanks, Michael. Now, for those of you who have arrived a little later, Archangel Michael's with me today. And he just said that's enough, out of nowhere. To be honest with you, this has been a kind of circuitous road, and I hope that this has been a blessing to you, because it doesn't feel the same as these journeys often do. The reason this is called a wild flow, I often call these wild flows, is that I'm trying to help bridge the gap between angelic consciousness and human consciousness. I'm trying to weave together the rainbow in a way that's not always linear. And to be present with that is to change subjects and reweave them in, and you got to create space for magic. And those of you who have been around for a long time, there's some real OG here who've been here for years. Bless your living souls. They're really taking it to another level in a way that inspires me regularly. There are 5 people in the training: Fatima, Angie, Sarah, Tom, and Trevor. Keep your eyes and hearts out for them. They're incredible. They're doing healing work on each other and other people in our sanctuary space that's really inspiring, and they're available to support you as well. And the ultimate gift of this work that we're learning through angels is that we learn to take care of each other, catalyze, facilitate, midwife a birth into a new form of self that's complete, so that we're standing as these flames, waving in the winds. And we don't need to fight with anybody. We don't need to externalize anything. We're not trying to escape anything that's our own. It's a daunting way of being. You might not be able to appreciate that it's scary until you feel it. The first time you feel it, you're like, oh shit, I've been leaning on other people my entire life. I can remember one of the first times I realized that I had to change this. I was like, put it back. Put back my systems of stability. I didn't even know I had these systems of stability. And then as soon as I felt them change, I'm like, put it back. But it's so much more fun. It is so much more joyful to be complete again. Now, I have to tell you, one of the ultimate challenges is that your mind, you have to take so much more responsibility for your mind. So much more responsibility for your mind. And we're here to help you do that. So we have a spiritual practice that's the unity of the rainbow itself. And it teaches you to move through the chakras. I'm going to invite you to take a look at the chakras in the Keyring playlist again and again and again. This is something you should do every other day when it works for you, as it will if you keep doing it. You can hop over to Wild Chakra Yoga, also linked in the description to the video, and get some deeper practices. And if those work for you, we have more after that we can offer. When you do this every other day, you're tuning yourself to the rainbow. And what this does is it brings to the surface anything that's in the way. This is the beauty. It's the terror and the beauty of this. If you tune yourself to the rainbow, everybody can do it. You do it, and then you watch for what doesn't work. You watch for what changes. And what Spirit does is it shows you exactly what's in the way in your life. It's amazing, really. It shows you exactly what's in the way of you embracing the rainbow. And then you have to do the work on that. So it could be this, or this. You have a relationship with someone, they accept it, but it's really not healthy. It's serving some role for them, but it's really in the way of you being your spiritual truth, being your spiritual unity. You are in the wrong job. You are not acknowledging resentment that you carry for a family member. It'll show you what's wrong if you keep doing this. So I hope that alone is enough of an inspiration to explore this deeper. Thoth taught me this. Thoth taught me this first, and he's basically asked me to just keep using it and keep teaching it for the rest of my life. And I intend to. It's awesome stuff. Pan, is that it? Do you have pan energy, Kareem? Yes, I can sense that. I tuned over. It's really hilarious. Thank you, Shayna. The Love It All channel. Wonderful. That's what a great name. I'm gonna have to check you out, yo. Thank you for being here. Love It All channel. Gene Perkins, bless your heart. Thank you for being here. Yes, indeed. Shorik, I want to know more about you, man. You present something really remarkable. Thanks for hopping over to the yoga channel. I saw you there. Thank you for being there. Just started inviting people over. Really, I've gotten most of the main practices there. And now it's a matter of guiding people through them. So in a month or so, I think at the turn of the year, we're really going to bring that channel more to life too. But if you want to get on board now, it's really been in beta testing for a while. It's going great. People are really having phenomenal impacts from these practices. And as I've said repeatedly, it takes 20 minutes. There are a lot of hour-long practices. That's what it is to take it to the next level. But you could do 20 minutes every other day for a year and be learning constantly. So I really invite you, I encourage you to check that out. Hey, if you've got any questions, we got some 10 more minutes. I'm typically filling the space more than this, and Michael slowed it down early. So if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to dive in. Otherwise, I'll tune in and find a new inspiration. I changed the name last night. Well, I'm happy to welcome you into Love It All channel. Bless your soul. Here's a secret, though. I will tell you this. I don't mean to be patronizing on any level. Love will force people to face themselves. So love, a lot of Christians will say, peace be with you. When you say love be with you, you're basically saying, if you're not facing yourself, it's time to. It's love is fiercer than peace. Love will not always be peaceful. Love will rip you up. So when we love everyone, we can, and leave them with a heightened presence of exactly what they're avoiding. So the beauty of that is when you love someone and they're not ready to face themselves, they'll leave. They don't want to deal with your love. They want you to accommodate them and fit into their paradigms of reality. When you love people who are not ready to feel love for themselves, it'll bring their pain to the surface and they'll run away. So there's a beauty to this in that, it's not more vulnerable in a very real way. Now you might feel more when you love everyone for real. It hurts. You have to watch the sadness and pain in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. But in a very real way, we're safer when we love. Oh my goodness. Armageddon, you've listened to all my videos. That's a lot of work. Bless your soul. Thank you for being here. I'm honored. Thoth did this so you could learn to do this. Now, it takes an awful lot of work. Thoth is years of patience in some circumstances. And we're going to be here for all of those years. But I will suggest to you that you realize Thoth is trying to lead you to get in touch. That's what we're here to do. And we've got a lot of support structures to help you. So if you want to come deeper, please explore the description for all the different links and support. Emiliano. Oh, goodness. So this is the best question possible. First of all, understand that musically, in a lot of ways, there are two important numbers, 7 and 12, okay? This is a recorder. It plays 7 notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. 12 notes can't be played on this. And those other 5 notes we're missing are in between these notes. The do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is it's an octave. It's really annoying terminology. Musicians are annoying. It's old Latin. This instrument only plays notes that sound good together. That's the same as the normal 7 chakra system. That is a student system. Yogis from India know this full well, and they will laugh about it. They give it to people as a starter system, just like this flute. It's a great way to learn about chakras and energy work. 12 is like a piano or a guitar or most modern Western instruments. 12 notes play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, starting at any one of those notes. That recorder will only play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, starting with one note. But once you have all 12, mathematically, there's an interrelationship between the notes that allows you to play in all 12 keys. So it's like, this is going to sound funny. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. 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 And you could do all 12 of those. So it's exponentially more possibilities, but it's also a lot more spiritually challenging and confusing. All of these notes in chakra language, in the language of light, presence consciousness. So when you're just using 7 and you're using them in the same linear pattern over and over, it's kind of calm. It helps you when you start to spiritually awaken, but want to stay focused. The problem is these 12 vibrations are awakening all over the world. So while it would be more convenient to try to stick with the 7 chakras, that's not working as well as it did 30 years ago, much less 300 years ago. The first instance of this 7 chakra system that many people are accustomed to can be traced back to about 500 years ago, where it was used consistently. There are lots of different chakras, but when you use these 12, it brings coherence in a way that no other system I've found can. Now, you can run all sorts of systems. Many different cultures have different systems of energy work, but most of them are using some of the 12 chakras that we're using as taught by Thoth. Now, make no mistake, Thoth taught these chakras. You can find it in the books, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. Incredible books. It'll break apart your idea, your understanding and awareness of reality, and put you back together. And then near the end of the second volume of these books, he channeled Thoth sharing these 12 chakras. I worked with those chakras relentlessly for years. I lost those books 4 times. So once I lost them, once I gave them away, once I threw them away. Finally, I wouldn't even buy them again because I'd spent so much money on them and I didn't have any money. So I just went to the bookstore and would read them in the bookstore for weeks. I did this over and over again until I figured out how to break them open. And once I did, Thoth came to me in a dream and he taught me the key ring. And this is what I keep referring to, the chakras in the key ring pattern found on the main Wildflower Fire channel. If you go there, you will, the first videos teach the pattern. At the very end are some shorts which you can use as an ongoing practice until you memorize it. And then they get progressively longer. So there are up to hour-long meditative rotations through these 12 chakras in this pattern. This is the only pattern, forwards and backwards, that will unite the 12 chakras in coherence in this way. And what it does is it tunes you. It's like tuning your instrument. And as you tune yourself, you're tuning your consciousness. You're tuning what you think about. And you're putting yourself in the best position you can to unearth what are your major karmic challenges. What are the major stumbling blocks that you're facing in life? Not what do you think are the major problems. Like, I need more money and I need more friends. What are really spiritually what's in the way? Because your spirit is relentless. Your spirit will prioritize what it prioritizes. It's going to put first what you need to deal with in order to flow better. And this chakra system and this key ring pattern will expose that. So notice the word I use, expose. It doesn't fix it all by itself. It'll bring you into enough coherence to see your challenge. Then you have to face it. If you're going to run away from your challenge once you see it, yeah, this is tough. This is difficult work. One of the blessings is that it works a lot better for me to teach this online than it ever did in person. I've taught this in person a fair amount, The problem with being in person all the time is people have a tendency to over depend on a teacher, at least in America. In the United States and in my social class, people are used to listening to your teacher like good little children, and they give too much power to the teacher. Thoth is really, he's fiercely like, do your work, yo. And he taught me in the way I try to teach you. You got to do this. And you have to be present with when you tune yourself. The first work you do is learn how to tune. So at first, it doesn't work as well, but you get better at it. And then the next thing that happens is your spirit starts showing you what's going on. Then you have to focus on that and do the work to change it in your life. So I can't get this fully explained right now, but it all works based in math. So we're going through this key ring pattern, which is heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip, senses chakra, solar plexus, diamond eye, dreaming chakra, lungs, plans and decisions, root, chin, trust and transformation, navel, third eye, heart. That is math. It's known as the circle of fifths. Look it up. Learning about this will greatly help your journey. Musicians understand this pattern. Once you apply it to chakras, incredible things happen. There are strict, clear mathematical reasons why 12 enable this cycle. It's not just that there are 12, like we're adding numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It enables this circle that just we could keep going through that pattern over and over again and retuning yourself. So it goes through a cycle that repeats, and 12 is uniquely capable of doing this mathematically. I'm going to keep it that simple for now. That was a big, awesome question. Thank you, Emiliano. Yes, indeed, Shayna. I know. I keep it by the desk. I keep it by the desk so I can teach this way. It's great. Solar eclipse tomorrow. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for announcing, reiterating, amplifying. Let's pray for it too, because whenever there's interference in the regular rhythms of light, you can watch how we are connected to the rhythms of light. Incidentally, I just found out something amazing, and I'd appreciate it if you all would research this to find out if it's totally true. The research I did so far indicates it is. The sun is actually green. We see it as yellow because the blue atmosphere filters the blue out of the green. But the sun is actually a high frequency of green light, which correlates to the heart chakra. That's fucking cool. Exactly, Gene. Not only is it finite, but it only works within 7 octaves. So this is a whole nother theme. But basically, at the edge of 7 octaves, so 3.5 octaves in each direction from the center of an attunement, a musical system breaks down. It doesn't work as well. So our consciousness is isolated in this place, tuned to this frequency of light in this lifetime. And it enables us to not drown in infinity. It's kind of cool. That's a huge statement all on its own, and I'm not going to go deeper into it right now. Bobby. Oh, I don't. I haven't had to do that, Bobby. When you tune your chakras in this way, Thoth will be with you. He taught me this cycle, the key ring cycle in meditation, as a way to be present. And at this point, he actually reaches out to me very frequently. He has an incredible etiquette. I have made a commitment that's deep enough that he will presence himself and say, hey, I think you need to focus this way, or I think you need to focus this way. He's always extremely gracious. He essentially gives me permission to say no, and I never do. $7p. Huh. I don't, message retracted. All right. People, I love you. We're going to hop over to the sanctuary. I encourage you to explore this. Visit the website, click on Sanctuary. It's our community. We have a live meet after this. You're welcome. You don't have to pay for it. We do invite you into the membership space that you pay for. It is well worth it. We're creating as much support as we possibly can in a small time frame, in a small, disparate community. So far, we got about 25 people. We're ready to grow. We only put it up in this form a couple months ago. So thank you for being here. I hope to see many of you soon. Love be with you and your families.